President Biden is in Mexico for meetings with the leaders of that country and the leader of Canada. It marks the first time an American president has visited the neighboring nation in nearly a decade. Mr. Biden spent Monday with Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Obrador says he is open to the Biden administration's plan to address migration issues before his visit. President Biden also made his first trip to the U.S.-Mexico border since taking office. Last week, the administration announced the U.S. will turn away all migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who try to enter illegally. The change also caps the number of legal asylum seekers entering the U.S. from those countries at 30,000 per month. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins me now. Weijia, what does this trip and the statements coming from both the White House and Mr. Obrador signal about the relationship between the U.S. and Mexico?
Well, John, this summit historically has been an opportunity for the leaders in North America to come together to show solidarity together. In fact, usually the president of the United States goes to one of these countries as his first foreign trip to show that. But that precedent broke with former President Trump, who went to Saudi Arabia as his first trip instead. And so President Biden is now finally visiting here. Of course, COVID played a role in why he hadn't been here earlier. And I think it really shows the importance of this working relationship, because these two countries really need each other, especially when it comes to matters of trade and immigration. And at this point, for President Biden, showing as much force as possible to compete with China. So economic competitiveness is also important for these two countries to be able to portray. I think that, President Biden is known for having bromances with other world leaders. That's not exactly the case with his Mexican counterpart, but certainly they have a very important relationship when it comes to hammering out policies that impact both countries.
And let's add in another world leader. The two will be joining Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Monday for a trilateral summit. What are the three North American leaders discussing during that meeting?
John, they have such a packed agenda, but certainly migration will be at the top of that list, in addition to climate change and fentanyl, which has been devastating back home. And they're really trying to get a handle on the flow of that deadly drug. They'll also be talking about, again, ways in which they can work together on issues like manufacturing. I know there was a lot of concern from Canada and Mexico when President Biden put so much emphasis on things being made in America, bought in America. And so I'm sure they will have that discussion as well. They'll probably talk about the war in Ukraine as well, because, this is the first time these three leaders have been together for a couple years to really have this FaceTime. And so tomorrow, when they have their official trilateral meeting, it will be very busy. Tonight is more ceremonial. They are having dinner with their wives at the palace right behind us.
And finally, Weijia, the president visited the border. What did the White House say was the purpose of that visit, and how has it been received by the considerable number of critics who've criticized the president for not going to the border and for his policies more broadly?
Right. So one issue that Republicans really zoned in on is the fact that the president didn't come here until 2 years after he took office. Another one is that when he did finally go to El Paso, Texas, which is one of the busiest ports of entry, he didn't actually see or interact with any migrants. And so they are criticizing the president for this being nothing but a photo op. Democrats, on the other hand, are also criticizing the president for what they call a lack of humanity in his new policies, John, which expand Title 42, which is, of course, the Trump-era COVID ban, which now will impact even more migrants from more countries and turn more people away. So he's getting fired from both sides here.
And the problem's not going away. Weijia Jiang in Mexico City for us. Thank you, Weijia.